Hi, I'm your host, Kibin Alleyne, and welcome to In the District, a show where we sit down with local and elected leaders from and around the Bronx. Today, we have Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, Councilmember Pierina Sanchez, and Fernando Ortiz of the New York City Economic Development Corporation here at the heart of the Kingsbridge Armory to discuss the future of this space. Thank you all so much for being here with me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Now, for my first question, and VP, you can answer this. Can you just describe what makes this attempt different from the previous attempts before? I understand that this, was kind of a journey in the making. So can you talk about what makes this time so different?
First, let me say 3 times a charm. And I think it also is about new leadership. I am the new Bronx Borough President, as well as our new council member, Pierina Sanchez of District 14. And we're coming to the table with a collaborative fashion. And we are engaging many stakeholders that have been involved in this process over 20 years to reimagine the Kingsbridge Armory, the largest armory in the nation that sits right in our borough. We have a very intentional purpose when it comes to getting this done for the third time. And we want to make sure that Bronxites, the Kingsbridge community, the small businesses, entrepreneurs, everyone has an opportunity. And what you are now seeing together, Kingsbridge, and the incredible comprehensive report that we have produced, but also the incredible working group that's been formulated has really been around making sure that we are all working together. We're coming up with creative and innovative approaches. And let's be honest, women are at the table leading this conversation now. And I think that definitely speaks volumes to new leadership in our borough and in our community.
Thank you so much. Now, Fernando, I'm really curious to hear from you, just given your background, working with your organization. Can you tell us a little bit about, what you do and, why maybe this time around it's a little bit different?
Yeah, so my role at EDC is managing government and community relations. And this time around in particular, as the borough president mentioned, this is the third time that we have put out an RFP for the Kingsbridge Armory. But this time around, we took a step back and we said, okay, before we do that, we need to hear from the community. We need to create a community vision plan. As was stated, we have new leadership, right? We had a new council member and a new borough president. And so we thought this was the perfect time to all of us jump on the same ship and say, where do we want to steer this, right? And so we put together a community working group of 25 members. We did over 9 months of community engagement using various, different tools, from online info sessions to public workshops to a survey to tours of the armory, right? Even just letting people inside the armory. That wasn't done before. So I think all of that created a lot of excitement and really energy, right, that we're seeing reflected now with people still coming to visit the armory. And I think that has really made this third time significantly different.
And I love that you really mentioned community engagement, and that kind of leads into my next question. Why is it so important that, as we talk about the redevelopment of the Armory, why is that so important for the Bronx? And why is it important that, Bronx residents know what's happening in the community?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be doing this along with EDC and my Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson. This building, this structure represents the hopes and dreams of this here community. Right? This has been a building that was built in 1917. It's been used for military purposes. It's been used as a movie studio. It's been used as an emergency food hub. It's had many lives, but it hasn't had permanent life since World War II. And so we're talking about a structure that looks like a castle, is full of promise, but has not seen the investment. And that's an unfortunate metaphor for this community here in the West Bronx. This community is full of vibrancy, full of life, full of hardworking people, and we have not seen the investments that we deserve to transform our economic prospects and our futures in the Bronx. And that is what this building represents.
Now, can you also expand on why this is so important for the Bronx, and why is it so important that Bronx residents are included in this journey?
It's important because the residents of our borough represent the future. They represent the promise, the potential that we have. The Bronx is a global destination. We are a borough of opportunities from our historic districts, our landmarks. We are the greenest borough in the city of New York, and we want to take advantage of that. We want economic development. We want great jobs. We want career opportunities. We want pathways to the middle class. We want young people to look at the Kingsbridge Armory and see their own hopes and their own dreams. We want to build up entrepreneurialships. We want to build up, the tech industry. So many industries that have not always had the proper and diverse representation, like gaming, like small businesses, making sure we have incubator spaces for many of our entrepreneurs. It's important for me as borough president to make sure that every project has its own validity, but also its own merits. The Kingsbridge Armory is historic for us in the borough, and we want to make sure that we're tapping into all of the opportunities that the Kingsbridge Armory will bring. With that comes jobs, career opportunities, great pathways, economic prosperity, economic wealth, and we are committed to this work. Councilmember Sanchez and I and all the elected officials that represent the Kingsbridge Armory have been working closely with EDC over this last year to make this plan the very best plan. Thousands of residents came up with great ideas, from incubator space, looking at culture, education, small business, supporting our street vendors. Everything and anything is absolutely possible in the largest armory that sits in our borough. So we want to look at this from an equity perspective, from a fairness perspective, from a justice perspective, as well as how it can continue to add more value to our borough when it comes to jobs and opportunities for many of our working families and our young people.
I would just love to piggyback here because something the borough president said about the community, 70 events, 4,000 people have come out. I'm so proud of us because, we're in the Bronx. Folks are always quick to say, oh, the Bronx doesn't do this, the Bronx doesn't that, the Bronx doesn't participate. But for this project, the Bronx has come out in force.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that as well, because I think that is like an idea that people have about residents in the Bronx, is that we're not, thinking about what's happening in our community and that we're not aware, but we are aware. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that. And you also mentioned something else about, jobs. And I kind of want to talk about, the economic and social benefits of changing of this space. So I would like to hear from each of you, what that could look like.
I think from an economic development perspective, a lot of people ask, well, why is the EDC, leading this process, right? And I think because at the core, it is we want to create economic development for this building, create those jobs, right? Allow pathways. There's over 15,000 students sometimes that are in this neighborhood between all of the local schools and Lehman College and BCC, right? There's a lot of academic institutions. We want this space to be a space of hope where students can come and have internships, have career pathways, that they can work in the neighborhood that they live, right? That they can make decent living wage jobs in their neighborhoods. And so that for us is very important. And I think from, just the viewpoint of EDC, we're very much committed to bringing economic development to what has been called the outer boroughs, right? Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island. And this vision plan kind of exemplifies our commitment to the Kingsbridge neighborhood and to the Bronx, right? We want to bring the jobs that you can find in Lower Manhattan to the West Bronx.
And I think the opportunities are endless for the Kingsbridge Armory. We know that this space is a beacon of hope and a beacon of opportunity. The thousands of families and residents and young people and older adults that have seen this castle in their community lie dormant for so many years. Yes, it's had multiple purposes since World War II, but never anything permanent. This is our opportunity as elected officials, as city agencies, to show the Bronx what we rightfully deserve in Kingsbridge, but also for the Bronx. Because if it happens here in Kingsbridge, it can happen anywhere in our borough. And we want to be very intentional about making sure that this is the very best, the most comprehensive, community-oriented plan for us, by us, right? That is our message to the residents of our borough, that they deserve better. And we're going to give them something better when we work together and reimagine the Kingsbridge Armory.
That's right. When I took office, actually before I took office in November of 2021, it would have been, I got tipped off that there was something that was going to happen with the Kingsbridge Armory, that the second attempt to redevelop the structure, which was the National Ice Center, that project was falling apart and there was a lawsuit and the city was very confident that they would regain the keys, right? A lot of folks ask, what happened? Why hasn't the project unfolded yet? And so when that happened, that's when I went to EDC and our borough president and our congressperson and our assembly member. And I said, look, I can't do this alone. None of us can do this alone. But if we band together and we say that in the Bronx, this is our priority, then we're going to see it happen. And that's actually what has happened. You've seen other elected officials from other parts of the Bronx, unsolicited, out of context, talking about, okay, what are some of the biggest opportunities in the Bronx? The Kingsbridge Armory. And so that's why we did the storm before the calm, right? The planning process involving all of the community. Hey, if you didn't get to go, don't worry, there's gonna be more. But already we have 4,000 people, and those 4,000 individuals from the community have said very, very clearly, we want jobs, we want to see ourselves in this project, and we want community ownership and economic opportunity, right? We want union jobs. So all of these things that the community has said over and over, there's no excuse for any development partner that can come. They know what we need as a community, and they can put that forth because we did a planning process.
Yeah.
Now, looking at this space, you can see that it's huge, and it can be quite intimidating to so many people, but I'm sure you guys have so many visions and so many plans. But before we get to those visions and those plans, can you just talk about what are actually the next steps into making those dreams a reality?
Yeah, in terms of next steps, so we released an RFP at the end of September of this year, and an RFP is a request for proposal, right? So now we officially have a call out for development teams to submit proposals. And so we've been leading some tours of the Kingsbridge Armory for those interested, and proposals are due January 18. So January 18 at midnight, that portal closes. The next day, I will be running into the office to see how many responses did we get, what kind of responses, and so that will kick off an evaluation process, right? We're looking for a financially feasible project. And one of the questions that we'll be asking those development teams is, how are you responding to that vision plan, right? We've attached that vision plan into the request for proposal process. So people need to, in their responses, in their proposals, address how they're answering or addressing things that the community has highlighted. So that will kick off that process, and we hope to have someone selected by the end of 2024. So we're very excited for January 18.
And can you just tell me a little bit more about that? Like, how can people learn a little bit more if they kind of want to be a part of that process?
Yeah, so on our website, EDC, if you type in Kingsbridge Armory, it'll take you to the portal for the Kingsbridge Armory. You can download the RFP there. We also have a section for community-based organizations that are interested in being a part of the development, right? Interested in having a space within the Armory. So you can sign up there, just tell us a little bit about what is your organization, your name, and really kind of creating the platform for there to be some kind of socialization, right? Even on the tours, we see people kind of, hey, what's your name? What are you doing? Where are you from? So allowing for those kind of natural partnerships to happen. And so we encourage people to, just download the RFP, download the vision plan, and also, just watch out for the news, check out the website, because we've been trying to be as transparent as possible in making sure that we continue to, on our digital platforms, continue to communicate to the community what's happening, what's the next step, and breaking it down in a language that is accessible to the community, right? I think I learned that from throughout this whole process. She was like, okay, how does this make sense to, the people in my district? So making sure that when we say something like RFP, that people understand what a request for proposal is, what that timeline looks like, what happens next, right? When they can expect a shovel to go in the ground, right? It doesn't happen overnight. There's kind of bureaucracy and procedures that need to happen. So explaining that and making that process accessible to people, I think, is what we'll be seeing happening in the next couple of months.
Now, I think that we're really in an exciting, part of this journey, and looking at this space. This is my first time joining here, and I have so many ideas of like, oh my gosh, what could this place be? I'm curious to know from all of you, what is your vision, or what do you hope to see for the future of the Kingsbridge Armory? And we could start with you and then go down.
Yeah. I mean, to me, and y'all know this is so personal. I grew up on Kingsbridge Road, right, just off Kingsbridge Road on 196th Street. So as a 7-year-old, as an 8-year-old, I would be walking by the Armory and looking at this big structure. My brother did ROTC here, and it was always the question of what is this building? Why is it empty? Why are the walls weird, right? You can kind of tell that when you're in here. And so when we talk about the vision for the future, first of all, the community has put one forth, and I want to stand by that and will stand by that. But for me, it's really about the job creation. It's really about walking into this space a couple years down the line and seeing people from our neighborhood working and earning union living wage prevailing, thriving wage jobs right here in the community, and having a ladder into the middle class, right? There's very little that you have to dig into to see and understand what the socio-demographics of our neighborhood say about us, right? But we are so much more than that. We are strivers. We're so much more than the income levels and whatever else, our health outcomes. We strive. And so this building needs to be a reflection of that in terms of the economic opportunities offered.
I've been very clear since becoming borough president of my administration's priorities and our blueprint for the borough, and the Kingsbridge Armory is a big part of that. So there are certain buckets that I believe are just non-negotiable for me. So with this space here in Kingsbridge, I want to make sure that it is a space of culture, education, health, equity, and justice, tech equity, and small business development. So I would love to see incubated space for entrepreneurs, co-working spaces. I would love to see something that recognizes the value of entrepreneurs supporting small businesses. I want to support street vendors because they are a valuable part of our community when you talk about local jobs and stimulating the economy. Since we are a cultural borough, from the Bronx Zoo, Botanical Gardens, Pregones Theater, I want to make sure that whatever we do here has a cultural aspect. So there's been a lot of talk about a home of salsa, right? Because we have the birthplace of hip hop and a new hip hop museum. So we also need to have a reflection of salsa and what that means for the Bronx. Also, health is important. We want to make sure that we are leading when it comes to positive health outcomes. So I would love to see some sort of a health-centered, oriented program that relates to our healthcare and primary health and mental health, which I think is very, very important. And then also everything we do has to have an opportunity for jobs and career opportunities. And I think as a borough that's not always digitally connected, we need to do something around tech. And I've also been very supportive of vertical farming and many of our hydroponic gardens in many of our schools. So I think a space where we're building and growing fruits and vegetables and produce from students is great. We are very supportive of STEAM and STEM initiatives. So there's so many opportunities, and 4,000 ideas all wrapped up into a community visioning plan is exactly what you have. And the space is big enough so we can accommodate multiple purposes. And one thing I do want to recognize is the incredible support of EDC. And we all have to acknowledge the support of Governor Kathy Hochul, a $100 million commitment, and Mayor Eric Adams, a $100 million commitment, as well as the Speaker of the City Council, Adrian Adams, led by our council member. We've been able to infuse millions of dollars already. So that shows that not only is this the right time, but there's an appetite to reimagine the Kingsbridge Armory. We would not be sitting here if we had no dollars. And we have millions of dollars and we need more, right? Not saying that we're at the full budget yet, but I am saying that there is a recognition from our leaders in Albany as well as City Hall that the Kingsbridge Armory is valuable. And if we can be successful here in the Armory, think about the success we can have across our borough.
No, I definitely echo that, Borough President and Council Member. I think for me, as a Bronxite, I grew up at Yankee Stadium, and I think I always thought this was the house of the Borough President, right? You see the Capitol, and the President lives in the White House. I'm like, oh, that's where our Borough President lives. Meanwhile, the Borough President was just from where I grew up. So Vanessa Gibson does not live here. But I always envisioned this space to be kind of a model that we have a lot is a work, live, play environment, right? Where people who live here can work here and play here, where they don't have to go down to Lower Manhattan to have recreational fun for their youth, right? But to take their kids on a Friday or a Sunday family trip. That this is a space where you can make a living, but also come and spend the money that you're making, right? That you don't have to, that the money is staying in the communities. I think for me, it's very important to see in this project that people can make money here, spend it here, and live here, right? Maybe not right here, but like down the block. But that is kind of this circularity, I think is important because we need that. We need to show our youth and the future that the Bronx is not just a place where you can live, it's a space where you can work and make good living wage jobs, but it's also a place where you should come and spend your money, right? Where you can safely go out with your children, with your grandparents, with your elders, with your couple, just to have a nice date night, right? You don't have to go too far. You can do that here. So that's what I want to see here.
Well, I want to thank you all so much for joining me and having this conversation. Fernando, can you just quickly let everybody know where they can go if they want to be a part of this change? Yes,
so we have a website, togetherforkingsbridge.com. You can also go to nycedc.org bronxnet.com/Kingsbridge. And on those two websites, you will find the community vision plan. You will find the request for proposals that you can download, all press releases that have happened, and just a wealth of information. All of the presentations that we had in the workshops, all of those surveys, all of those things are on the website. So I encourage everyone who wasn't able to participate in any of the workshops, who wants to see what was shared, what is happening, to go to the two websites.
Once again, thank you all so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Together, Kingsbridge.
And thank you for watching In the District. Stay tuned for a new episode of In the District right here on BronxNet.